Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Opposition Report. We're back after a trip to Devon with a trip to Wales and South Wales, where we take on Cardiff for the first time in a few years. Today, I'm joined by Ben from the View from the Ninian Podcast. How are we doing today, Ben?
All good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. Looking forward to it. First of all, how are you adjusting to life in League One? Because I remember when we got relegated, it was a bit of a shift in perspective. No disrespect to any teams in the division, but obviously it's a very different life going from Championship football to League One football. So as a fan, how are you finding League One football?
I'm enjoying it. I think we've had. I mean, if you've paid attention to anything that Cardiff have done over the last 4 or 5 years, we've kind of been on this slow road to relegation anyway. So I think when relegation came last season, it was almost a bit of a relief for us because we kind of fought against it a few years in a row. Had one good year where we finished mid-table, but the rest of the time we were sort of 18th, 21st, that sort of thing. I think when you guys went down, I think you went down because of points deduction, and we stayed up because of that points deduction. So that was like the lucky escape. I think with everything that happened last season, with the manage change, with the owner kind of being erstwhile, shall we say, when it came to it this summer, we were quite, I think, relieved about it. And I think a lot of fans were looking forward to playing some teams we haven't played in a while, playing some new teams. We've already played teams like Wimbledon, Stockport, who we haven't played for years, Leyton Orient, another team we haven't played for years. So now that we're in League One, I'm enjoying it. It's good fun. We're playing good football. We've got a really good youth kind of core to our team for the first time. We've got a new manager in, so it's all changed, and I think that's been a good thing.
You mentioned you started the season. You've played 11 games, won seven, drawn two, lost two, and you currently sit third. So it's been quite a good start. From a fan's
Yes.
perspective, how's it been?
It's been good. I think we've got a new manager in. So Brian Barry Murphy came in the summer. You might know him from Man City. He was like the youth kind of academy lead at Man City. He's completely changed the way we're trying to play football. The last couple of years have been short term, is in a way of just kind of getting the best out of the players we've got. Now I think Brian Barry Murphy's playing a system that works around the players we've got. So we're slotting in players when they come in and out. We've got an actual system where you can see that players are playing. We've brought in a lot of our younger players. If you look at our starting lineup recently, people like Dylan Lawler, who's sort of 19, Ronan Capacchio, who's 18, they've started a lot of games, and that's been really refreshing to see. And we're winning games. I think we've already won more games away from home this season than we did all of last season. So that's like just from a very basic level, there's enjoyment there again because we're going to games and we're winning them. We've scored a few last minute winners that are always good fun. We're playing better football and we're winning games. And we've had the international break now. We've got, I think, a game in hand on a few teams around us. So there's a real opportunity for us to put together some momentum going into the next international break.
Brian Barry Murphy's been a name that's kind of been floated around a lot of League One clubs. Obviously, before he
Yeah,
came to Cardiff, he were, I think, it was at Leicester, Man City,
yeah,
Rochdale. I want to say, what,
yeah.
what's the thinking behind Brian Barry Murphy so far? Are you impressed with him on the pitch in terms of his tactics, but also off the pitch and the way he conveys himself as a manager?
I'm very impressed with him. I was a bit skeptical in the summer because the only kind of managerial experience he had really was at Rochdale, where he did get them relegated, and that was the thing that made me nervous because it's kind of like, is he a good coach rather than manager? Does it translate to that kind of head coach kind of role, as it were, these days? But I can't praise him highly enough. Really, he's come in. I think he's done exactly what we wanted in the summer, in a sense of kind of assessed the squad and gone, where can we fill with youth? Where can we sign good quality players? He's getting the best out of some players that weren't at their best over the last couple of seasons. And I think off the pitch, the way he talks about the game, the way he acknowledges the fans, he's done a few kind of like tours around kind of working men's clubs and pubs of South Wales, and that just goes so far with the fans. So I'm really impressed with him both on and off the pitch, and I think he's the kind of manager that I can see as, for the first time, I can see being at the club for a couple of years.
As long as no one comes along and poaches them, which I'm not sure.
As
We had it last
yeah,
year, Ruben. It's one of those bad things about, well, even championship.
exactly.
Get a nice, young, exciting manager, and then someone at the top of the championship goes, "Oh, we'll
Swoops
have
in.
him." Off he
Yeah,
goes.
yeah,
I've picked out two results so far that I wanted to talk to you about. Both
yeah.
on kind of in my head two ends of the spectrum. We'll start off with a seven-goal thriller against Orient, where you won 4-3. Talk to me about
Mhm.
the game, what went right. That was your last game in League One, I believe, as well. So talk to me about the game. What was it like? What went well for you guys? What didn't go so well?
We were, I mean, it's a strange one because I think in the game before that we dominated the game and hadn't scored many goals. I think that was the game before that, and it kind of was almost like the opposite of that. Leyton Orient came to us and played brilliant football, played brilliant expansive football, dominated the possession stats, dominated the shot stats, and we were defensively all over the place. We had a couple of really bad errors from a guy called Gabriel Osho, who's one of our new signings. He gave the ball away for one of the goals that led to, I think, Leyton Orient equaliser, and then he also gave the ball away in the 95th minute that almost led to the 4-4 equaliser. But our keeper saved the day there. But going forward, we were just really incisive for once. We've had games this season where we've created a lot and not scored. I think we're top potentially for the most big chances missed. But against Leyton Orient, we seem to create really good chances that we then scored. So going forward, we were pretty good. We were pretty incisive. But I think at the back, we were a little bit shaky. And I think it was a very exciting game, but it could have ended 10-6. It was just one of those games. It was absolutely insane. And I think it showed a little bit defensively of the naivety of some of our players who I think Gabriel Osho, we signed him from Auxerre in the summer. He played Premier League football for Luton. Clearly a very good footballer, but it's almost like he thinks his brain probably works faster than his body sometimes, and he's trying to do things where he doesn't need to be taking those risks in those areas, and that's what cost us in the Leyton Orient game. But we were just lucky enough that our attackers bailed us out in that game.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I've picked up the 1-0 defeat to Burton. Now, I'm assuming what you're about to tell me is you absolutely dominated the game, but missed quite a lot of big chances.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the first 10 minutes of that game, yeah, and the chances we created in that first 10 minutes, you'd have thought it would have ended 5 or 6-0 to us. We had 3 or 4 gilt edged chances in those first 10 minutes where we just either put it too close to the keeper, a defender got a nick on it, and then I think as the game went on, Burton kind of came into the game and got a lot more confidence from the fact that we were missing chances. I think we missed 8 big chances. You know what the FOTMob kind of rankings are, big chances. We missed 8 big chances in that game. And I think Burton Albion had 1 shot on target, which they scored with, which kind of just sums it up, really. And I think that was the game I was referring to in the sense of we had so much of the ball. I think we were 76% possession. We had so much of the attacking play, so much of the momentum, so much of the ball was in their half, but we just couldn't score. And then Burton went at the other end, and it was a bit of a defensive mishap. We probably should have cleared it sooner than we did. It bounced around, and the guy just absolutely thundered it home. And fair play to Burton. They came to us, did a job on us, but it was a very frustrating night to be a Cardiff fan.
Let's talk about your transfer window before your League One season. It's been from an outsider's perspective looking at it, I'd say a transitional period. You had the likes of Jack Mite and Andy Runamotive from a Reading perspective, who we saw leave the club over the summer. And then you brought in quite a few signings as well, or quite a few signings as well, I believe. Not quite a few, maybe a few.
Yeah.
Gabe Osho being one of them. I know you've mentioned him there. He is a former Reading Academy prospect.
Is he? I didn't realise that.
Yeah, so he came through our academy and we let him go to Luton, and then obviously he's gone on to there. So Gabe Osho, other than the Leyton Orient game, what's he been like? Because I'm sure a lot of Reading fans will be wanting to know.
Well, funnily enough, in the Bradford game, he did another mistake where he gave the ball away, but he recovered perfectly. But then at the last minute, instead of trying to start, so their attacking player kind of streaked ahead with the ball, got into the penalty box, and as he went to cut it back, all Osho needed to do was stand him up, and he probably would have defended him quite well. But what he decided to do instead was throw himself into a slide tackle and take the player out, which was really impressive because I had no idea that he was going to do that, and I don't think even he thought about it. It was just so instinctive. But apart from that, I think you can see he's got quality, right? Like he was really good for Luton in the Premier League. He went to Auxerre, which is a League One club in France, and you think, God, he must have some quality. There are moments where you think he's far too good for us. And I think that's where the complacency comes in, because he probably thinks he can take risks where he doesn't necessarily need to take risks. But I've been impressed with him so far. We've kind of chopped and changed our defence a little bit. He's partnered Dylan Lawler, who's our young centre-back. Then he's also partnered Will Fish, who we signed from Man United last summer. He looks good. I think he needs to cut out those errors before we really take to him. But I think he's clearly got quality above this division. So I'm hoping that if we can keep him, and then if we do get promoted, all being well this season, then he'll really shine in the Championship.
Who has impressed you the most out of your new signings, and who has impressed you the least?
It's quite funny, really, because I don't think any of them have really stood out so far. We've signed people like Omari Kellyman, who came in on loan from Chelsea, who hasn't really made an impact just yet. He's kind of played in a little bit in the Virtue Trophy and played against Burton a little bit, and you can see he's got quality, but he hasn't had the game time to necessarily make an impact just yet. I think that the players that have impressed me the most so far this season have been the young players who've come through. The core of our team is now all these youth academy prospects that we've had that have come through, and that's the thing that's impressed me the most, I think, and that's the really important thing. Like, I tell you what, I've completely skipped over a key player here who's impressed us the most, and that's Nathan Trott, our goalkeeper that we signed from Copenhagen. I'm remiss to mention him because last season we kind of jumped between Ethan Horvath, who is one of the worst keepers I've seen in a Cardiff shirt, and then who was the other one? Jack Alnwick, who's now kind of not really playing for us. And Nathan Trott's come in and immediately impressed us with the ball at his feet, with the saves that he's making, and all that kind of stuff. So Nathan Trott's been probably our most impressive new signing.
Off the field, you've not always had the best of relationships with, to say the least, with Vincent Tan, who I believe is still somehow your owner. I was a bit,
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised by that, given obviously all the issues with changing the color to red and then back to blue. What's the current relationship like between sort of the fan base and the ownership? I'm assuming that a lot of the reason why you got relegated may have been down to the owner.
Yeah, I think our relationship with him, I would describe it charitably as strained. I think he barely comes to games anymore. So, 10 years ago when he first came in, changed the kit to red, you'd see him at a lot of games. You'd see him, he'd bring his celebrity pals to games. He'd be there looking very kind of Bond villainy in the way he dressed and all that kind of stuff. For the past couple of years, I don't think he came to a game last season. I could be wrong on that front. Previously, he came in November of 2023 for a game. So we barely see the guy. Obviously, this summer brought a lot of speculation about takeovers. There was the Gareth Bale rumours. There was another rumour around a different consortium who were coming in to take over the club. And I think a lot of fans got ahead of themselves with that and kind of already jumped ahead to the fact we'd be in a world without Vincent Tan, where he doesn't own us anymore, but he's behind the scenes. I think if you listen to conversations and rumours that have come from people like Mehmet Dalman, who's our chairman, it feels like Tan is almost doubling down on things really and not willing to give up the club just yet. I think the relationship will always be strained with him. The red kit has always been a kind of black mark against his name in the copybook. I don't think he's ever fully recovered from that, and the relegation was almost like a final straw. I don't think it's entirely down to him. What I would say in his favour is that he's the money man. He puts in the money every month that keeps us going, and you have to give him credit for that. There are problems with the people who run the football club on the ground. You've got people like Ken Chu and Mehmet Dalman, who are our chairman, who are very rarely involved. They have day jobs that they care about and they have other things that they're doing. So you very rarely see them with the day-to-day running of the football club. And I think that's the problem more than anything. If we had more committed staff on the ground day to day, that would go a long way to repairing the relationship with Tan. But until that happens, I think the relationship will always stay the way it is.
So kind of then linking it back into the transfers and you're saying about a very young core of a squad, has it sort of been because funds aren't necessarily available to bring in from elsewhere, or is it just the fact that you've got this really young, exciting crop? I mean, you've got the Colwell brothers that
Yeah.
are coming in and they're fantastic prospects and they're ready to go. Has there been sort of a necessity to rely on youth because the funds aren't there for transfers?
I think this summer, I think when you look back over the last few years, we flip-flop between spending a bit of money to not spending money. So if you look at last summer, we sold Mark McGuinness to Luton for around £10 million, and then we spent big on people like Jesper Darland, Will Fish, and there was another player that we signed as well whose name escapes me at the moment. And those players didn't work out. And what tends to happen with our club is that when a summer works out where we spent big, the next summer is pretty spendthrift because the Vincent Tan is unwilling to necessarily put the money in. And this summer, I think, was about a reset in that regard. We released quite a few players. We lost some of our big earners, people like Dimi Gutas, who went out to Turkey, sorry, was probably one of our highest earners. Joe Rolls was probably one of our highest earners. Aaron Ramsey was certainly our highest earner. Those players have left the club. And I think what we've done is instead of going, right, we need to replace all these players with players from outside, what we've done is we need to kind of add quality where it's needed. That's why we signed people like Nathan Trott in goals, because we needed a good quality goalkeeper. That's why we brought in Amari Kellyman as a loan player. And I think that's been the big focus this summer is supplementing the core of the youth players we have who are now ready to come through and play, the people like the Colwell brothers, and then go from there with the quality around them.
So let's move on to the game itself then. Any fresh injury concerns going into the game?
Yeah, so Dylan Lawler, one of our young centre backs who's been pretty good this season. He's 19. He's away with on the Wales duty. Picked up a groin knock by the sounds of it, so I don't think he'll be involved. I think he's the main injury concern. We've also got Alex Robertson, who we signed from Man City a couple summers ago, who is status unknown, shall we say, because it sounds like him and Brian Barry Murphy have had a bit of a falling out. He hasn't been involved much this season, even though he could be quite a good asset for us. But I think Dylan Lawler is the main injury concern going into this one. We should have a pretty full complement apart from that.
My next question was going to be who do Reading need to watch out for, but based on my research, I'm assuming it's the Caldwell brothers.
It'll be the Colwell brothers. It'll probably be people like Yusuf Salik and Callum Robinson as well. I think we've still, the fact we've still got Callum Robinson in League One can be a bit of a cheat code. I think the guy's a ridiculous footballer at times, and he's been on form recently. He scored a few goals in the last few games. Yusuf Salik has started scoring again. But yeah, I mean, Ruben Colwell, he's 6'6", but plays as a number 10 in the middle of the park. He's just at times this season he's been unplayable. The way he goes past players, the way he controls the ball, he is a cheat code at this level. I use that phrase again, and I think if he's on form with Joel Colwell, his younger brother, backing him up, who's a real dynamo in the midfield, kind of a proper box to box, but can kind of take it past players and do a lot with the ball. I think those two are really our standout players.
What formation are you expecting Brian Barry Murphy to go with?
We've kind of been going with a 4-5-1. We play two centre backs with two full backs. We play a five across the middle with two kind of wingers, a kind of three in the middle with probably two eights and a 10, and then one striker up front, depending if it's Yusuf Salik or Callum Robinson. There was a period where we were trying to play three at the back as well, so we might go with a three, like a 3-5-2. But the most recent games, it's been a 4-4, it's kind of like a 4-5-1.
Callum Robinson in League One. I knew he was there, but I didn't realize he was probably playing as much as he is. I would have kind of expected him to move on maybe to another Championship club. I'm guessing in League One he's been very good, but towards the back end of the Championship, was he still a player that you were relying on, or?
He had his best scoring return for us last season. I think he ended up with 12 goals last season, but he didn't really play. If you look at the minutes he played beyond sort of January, he was constantly managing an Achilles injury, by all accounts. So he was in and out of the team. He would play in half an hour here. He was coming off the bench for 20 minutes there. He wasn't starting games as much, but he was still playing. I think I had the same thought. I thought this summer, if anyone's going to go, it's going to be someone like Callum Robinson because I think he's just 30, maybe even slightly younger. He's got pedigree at the Championship and Premier League. And if you're a Championship club who've maybe just come down from the Premier League and looking for a relatively cheap option in terms of a transfer, he might be the guy that you turn to because we would have needed to sell in the summer. But he's stuck around and fair play to him. He seems to really be doing a good job with the young players. He seems to be a good voice in the dressing room. And he's scoring goals, which is the main thing. I think when you have a fit and firing Callum Robinson in Championship or League One, he's just a great player to have around.
And finally, can I get a score prediction for Saturday's game?
Um, I think it's going to be 2-1. I think we should have. We're pretty good at home, and I think we should have enough to beat you. Because I know you guys aren't having the best season so far, but you still have people like Jack Marriott who are scoring a lot of goals. Every time I seem to watch the Football League highlights, Jack Marriott scored another goal. So I'm a bit wary of the fact you have players who can score goals, but and you seem to be our bogey team for a little while. I don't think there was a period where we just couldn't seem to get a result against you. But I just think fresh after the international break, the players will want to put in a good result. I think they need to get a win out of this because we're a game behind a few teams. So I think it's going to be 2-1 to us.
Perfect. Thank you for joining me today, Ben. Where can running fans check out your stuff if they want to find out maybe a little bit more about Cardiff or about League One in general?
Yeah, of course. So we do the View from the Ninian podcast. You can find us on Twitter or X as they call it these days. Our Twitter feed is VFT Ninian. You can search us on YouTube. We have a bunch of interviews and podcasts. We did an interview with a former Reading player, Sean Morrison, relatively recently, which went down quite well. So you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all those usual places. We're very Cardiff City focused, and we make no apologies for that. But we try not to take things too seriously.
Well, perfect. Thank you for joining us today, Ben, and come on, you ours.